So I watched two vids tonight, man. The top one is the first one I watched. It came in my feed, so I watched it. As far as the video, it was insightful. I think it was a pretty cool video. I considered reacting to it, but I think it's too sensitive of a topic. And on top of that, I'm not gonna lie, I'm empathetic to some extent. I didn't want to trigger any of her sensitivities, being honest, when it came to that topic. But the portion that I was going to react to, I'm probably not going to react to. I'm going to do another video on it, which is going to be about guys and like AI, love, and stuff like, because she had some good points when it came to that. But as I scrolled her page, I seen this other video that didn't get many views, but we're going to react to it today. And the reason that I'm going to react to it is because if you can criticize somebody else, you should be able to take some degree of criticism. Now, this is the thing. I still feel the same way that I mentioned as far as the first video, as where I'm not really going to be talking about her so much because, again, being what she's been through, I do not want to trigger her as far as talking about her, anything like that. Possibly won't even see this video, but still, so that's the first thing. Second thing is I'm going to focus more on what is being said. What is being said in general, and I'm going to speak in general for the most part. But because I already watched the video, the one piece of criticism you are going to hear me mention is that she personalized something general. So let's get into it.
Any woman that is obsessed with drawing all over her body, there's something wrong with her.
Well, that wasn't too nice, but what do you expect in a society where people are easily susceptible to content, where women can go ahead and listen to content about how they are basically walking away from men and they trash men, and men are over here and they are in the red pill where they're supposedly bettering their lives, but in the midst of that they need to trash women and talk about women with tattoos. I want you to ask yourself right now, if you are either red pill, whatever side you want to label yourself, where in your life did something happen that nobody knows about, where you did something horrible or bad, and it's something that you would never want anybody to know, or hardly anybody knows anything about? I want you to think about that for just a moment.
Spoiler alert, you're doing that for no reason, because nothing gets done with you thinking that thought. Nothing gets done with it.
Okay, now that you've been able to think about that, when we try to say that somebody with tattoos or piercings is basically just nothing, their value is that of trash, their value is down here, they're nothing but basically a cockroach. You are taking somebody's value by what your personal preference is for what somebody that you want to be with looks wise, and you're taking that and trying to make somebody feel as though they should be worth nothing but the dirt on the ground, and that is not a healthy place to go by.
She said a lot, so let's begin to unpack what she said. So the first thing that she said is, when you try to basically degrade somebody with tattoos, that's not what she said verbatim, but that's what she said. When you basically try to devalue them and say that, they have no value because they have tattoos. First off, that is not what he said, and that was not the intention that he had when he said it, because I've seen him say it a bunch of times. What he actually said was, if you see a chick with a bunch of tattoos, something is wrong with her. And look, that was the whole clip. That was just it right there. She didn't let him give any context. She didn't, let him flesh it out or anything like that. But when I hear that, what I assume is that he means something is wrong with them mentally. They have some type of trauma. Now, in the full clip, he doesn't say that, but I'm going to put one after it in a different context where he does say that.
And I've never met a woman covered in tattoos that doesn't have trauma, like excessive piercings that doesn't have trauma. Like,
I said I was gonna put both clips, but I remembered that she has more to clip later in the video. And plus, on top of that, man, I keep it so real with you. I'm not the biggest fan of Buddy. And he said some bullshit in that clip, boy. When she get to that part, he said some bullshit. Hey man, if nobody gonna keep it real with you, so just to recap that point, with you. He said that, basically women with tattoos, something is wrong with them. Something is typically wrong with them. He did not say that they are low value or anything like that. And the context of the clip is him basically saying that it's a red flag. Now, I will be fair. I will be honest. Because once I looked at the whole clip, I realized he talks about this whole bumper sticker stuff. So he is talking shit. He is talking shit. But this is the other thing, man. And this is me keeping it real. His intention with this is not to hurt women and make you feel bad and devalue you, and because this is the thing. This content is made for men. It is made for men to consume. It is not made for women. If we're talking about red flags and women having, issues, as far as women who have tattoos and stuff like that, I watched another video he did trying to find that video. And the video was titled something like, why you should never approach a woman with tattoos or give her a compliment or something like that. And a dude in the gym, he said something to this chick, and he was like a police officer or something like that, off duty. Man, she turned it into some big, fucking controversy, and it was literally nothing. It was literally nothing. When he is given that type of information, he is trying to save guys from having bad experiences like that cop who gave the woman covered in tattoos at the gym a compliment. He could have got fired. He could have got reprimanded. He could have just got his reputation messed up because she wanted to record her tweaking out because he gave her a compliment. So again, the intention is to warn men so that men can protect themselves. The information, his primary function as far as him giving this information, is not to, make women feel bad and hurt your feelings and stuff like that. No, because let's be honest. Can we be honest for 1 second? He is doing this to get men into his community. In the video, he says he has hundreds of thousands of men in his community. So he's doing this to get men into his community. That's what it is. There is no benefit in aiming this content at women. You just so happen to come across it. Now, like I said, to be fair, he does mention some stuff, some other stuff, as far as men and tattoos and, women have all these bumper stickers and so I'll address that when we get to that.
If this man, Rich Cooper, or any of these red pill guys want to try to help men to better their lives, then that's great. But to have to trash talk women and to say that women with tattoos are this and this and that, well, that's not the exception for every woman with tattoos. Yes, all of us, with or without tattoos, have had screwed up childhoods.
So first off, if the man doesn't say all, if the person given the argument doesn't say all, then you have to assume that it is a generalization and that the generalization means most. Assuming that, somebody who makes a generalization is speaking for all people it's ridiculous, especially when you get into these contexts where we're having these discussions all the time. It's so common when you have these types of discussions with women. And I'm just realizing now that I don't think I've ever seen a guy do that. I don't think I ever had to break down to a guy what a generalization is. So that's the first thing. Because I get tired of hearing not all. If you're going to do that, give pushback to not most, or say that's a minority of women. Or say those women are the exception to the rule. Like, most women with tattoos are fucking super sane and fine and don't have mental health issues. Now, as far as her, what she is doing with her generalization, she said all women basically have some type of issues, as far as their childhood and stuff like that. I don't, when you say all, that's an absolute. That means 100%. Just say most. If you believe most, just say most. And we could debate about that. But all is like, come on, man. You don't think there is one woman. Like, I'm not even about to finish that, man. Come on.
Have had things that have happened in life that are traumatic. Some people want to have tattoos because that's the aesthetic that they like, but that does not equate to who they are in here. I'm going to play another clip.
And tattoos are totally different. I mean, I noticed that you've got tats on your arms, but it's a masculine trait, right? Like throughout history, men have tattooed themselves. It's a tribal sort of experience. For some, it's a rite of passage. For some, it has a lot to do with culture and what they believe.
This is not a true statement that he is making. The cultural practice of tattoos was not just for men. It has actually been for both genders, and it has gone way back in history. The best way to be able to prove this is through mummification, which that's the best way to preserve the skin after death. And it's not something that was practiced with a whole lot of, like, let's say, for instance, the Vikings. It's hard to define whether or not Vikings thousands of years ago actually had tattoos because the majority of them did not mummify themselves. This is about a 5,000-year-old mummified woman that was found with multiple tattoos, and it wasn't just that body of a mummified woman, it was multiple other women's bodies that were found. And here we see the culture of women with tattoos. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's beautiful, and it isn't just for men either.
So let me add on to that, because I knew as soon as he said that it was bullshit. When you look at this right here, you see two women. Those two women in the back are much older. Those are not 22-year-olds or nothing like that. Now, this is in New Zealand. The natives of New Zealand, they had like a haka that they did. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it, man. They're in parliament. They, the stuff that's going on there to some extent, man. The colonialism and shit like that, taking it. They're the natives of the land. And them getting tattoos on their face, is a part of tradition and things of that nature. So it is tribal. It is cultural. So to just say that it is masculine and then connect those things to like, oh, well, men throughout history, like, fam, you think that women in these tribes don't get, in cultures, don't get tattooed? Like, let's be fucking honest. Let's be fucking honest. And I'm going to take it a step further. So what he was doing was making a bad argument, a very flawed argument on why tattoos are masculine. The first thing, we just got that out of the way. It's not. It's not. So this is the second thing. Let me go over two more things. Second thing is, okay, what I just did was cool. What she did was cool. What he did was cool. All of us talking about tribal shit. We're talking about Europeans. We're talking about Americans. We're talking about people who have no connection to any fucking tribal culture. People are getting tattoos for recreation in these countries, in these settings that we're talking about. So that whole cultural shit is just irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. He tried to make it relevant to make a point as far as throughout history, men got tattooed and stuff like that. And it's cultural and tribal, but women got tattooed too. And even to this day, there are women on the planet getting tattooed, and it has to do with culture and not some fucking, like, the shit that you see on the screen right here. This cat got like some Ed Hardy type shit on his forehead. That is not cultural, tribal. That is nothing. That is trendy. That is trendy. That is that is pure desire. He just desired to get tattoos on his face. That's it. And this is the issue as far as the last thing that I'm going to say. I think that the reason he tries to absolve men of anything when it comes to tattoos is because he is trying to sell courses and get people into that community. Because this is the thing. When I look at it, let me keep it real with you. Let's get real quick. When you want to talk about American culture, there has been a culture shift when it comes to tattoos. Getting or seeing a face tattoo was like some extremely taboo stuff. If you go back to like 1980, like it's extremely rare. You would never see it. You could even go to the 90s. You could even go to the mid 2000s, like 2005. Just extremely rare, wild, and it was reserved for a certain type of person, certain type of people. And I'm talking about face tattoos. Even if you go back to the 70s, tattoos was not that crazy. Go back and look at Tupac's tattoos in the 90s. Tupac it was a lot of space between them tattoos, man. It was a lot of space between them tattoos. And look at the guy's face on the screen. There is very little space on his face. And that's how a lot of people's bodies look now. So there has been a tattoo culture shift as far as America. And I want to be clear, when I say culture, it is completely different than, the culture of the indigenous people of New Zealand, like I mentioned earlier, because that goes back hundreds of years. This is some trendy shit in America and all these other first world countries and shit. So let's go back to those times that I mentioned. We're going to say 2005 through like we'll go back and say 80, because I highly doubt anybody was really out here in the 60s with a face tattoo. And even in the 70s, like that had to be like, bruh, like you get a face tattoo. That's in the 70s. I can't imagine it, man. Go find a picture, bruh. But listen, in the 80s and to the mid 2000s, that shit was reserved for prison inmates and super thugs. Crazy, batshit nuts motherfuckers. Killers. In New Orleans, hold up. I'm pretty sure that this came out of New Orleans or just Louisiana in general, the teardrops. When we first heard about the teardrops, it was in like the 2000s. And what those were supposed to signify as far as the word that went around, because I don't even live in Louisiana at all. I'm nowhere near Louisiana. But what those are supposed to symbolize is the amount of people you've killed. That's supposed to say, and look, they could mean all different types of shit now. But when they first came out and we first started seeing them on faces, I was like, why is these niggas so sad? Those mean bodies. These niggas is not sad. So when you look at that and you just think about, okay, that's where those came from. And then you think of all the other people as far as prison dudes from different gangs with face tat. That's what that was reserved for. That was reserved for crazy dudes, killers, people who were very off. So fuck all this tribal shit this cat is talking about and fuck all that shit. Fuck all of that shit. Both of them is talking about. We talking about America. Think about this. Like, remember when Gucci Mane got the ice cream cone on his face? That's the type of Gucci Mane caught a body. He killed somebody. And he beat the kid. He beat it. It was self-defense, but he killed him. Even then, people throughout Atlanta had feared Gucci Mane for a certain amount of time. And even then, he was very sporadic. He was very wild. And he hung around a bunch of dudes. It was like, you should know. If you know rap, you should know Gucci Mane. He got an ice cream cone tattooed on his face, bro. People with face tattoos at a certain point in time, you did not play with at all. And it was absolutely a signal that these motherfuckers were dangerous. Right? So you understand everything that I just said, everything that we built up to this point. That is a universal. I don't care if you white, black, whatever. If you was in America and you had a face tattoo, 2005 through 1980, crazy killer, something like that. That's what that represents. Like you were. It was a warning. Now we get to this, different era. We get to this different era where we get to the 2010s. Everybody want to get tattooed because of Wiz Khalifa and stuff like that, and different people, MGK, etc., etc. Everybody wants to get their whole body tatted up because it looks cool. That's the culture shift right there. For black people, Wayne and Tupac really got us to that Wiz Khalifa era where people started getting tattooed crazy. I'm talking about their whole body. So we get to that point, and now, there was a point where neck tattoos were taboo. Neck tattoos were taboo. We are at a point now where neck tattoos don't even mean the same thing they used to mean anymore, because they were similar. They were absolutely similar to face tattoos. Face tattoos don't even hold the same weight anymore, because a guy that is an absolute cupcake, a sweetheart, will get a face tattoo. Now, I got more points to make about tattoos. I got more. But just so we could get back to the video, I'm going to wrap this portion up by saying this. When it comes to men and women, if you getting tattoos doesn't say as much as it used to. If you got 1, 2 tattoos, it says something, but it doesn't say as much as it used to. If you got a neck tattoo, that says a little bit more than just some tattoos you could hide on your body. If you got a face tattoo, that screams a lot. It might not scream the same shit that it screamed in 2000, but it still screams a lot. And I'll get to that around the end of the video. Let's get back to this.
Guys have been told, be a nice guy, be a shoulder to cry on. But the truth of the matter is, women don't generally lead that interesting of a life compared to what a guy does. Women like to talk about people, men like to do things.
Oh, and that's all Rich does, is talk about people. So are you a woman, Rich?
Low tier insult. He's still right in the grand scheme.
The next point I want to get at is you can never tell who somebody truly is. This woman is Lucy Letby. She has 8 counts of murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, and all of these are of babies. Then we have Jodi Arias, guilty of first-degree murder, killing her on and off again lover. The next one, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but Etztabelets Carranza, something Italian. She attacked her husband and lover with a chainsaw before burying their bodies. And then we have the sweet and innocent looking Manson girls that killed 7 people over 2 nights. Lucy Letby is a perfect example of the point that I'm trying to get to. You cannot find what's on somebody's inside, what's in their soul, in their heart, by what's on the outside. And there's so many other serial killers, or even just people that have committed murder or other crimes that look completely innocent, and you would never know that that is the type of person that they are. That's the darkness that's deep down inside.
The point she just tried to make is bullshit, and I'm gonna break down why. First, we look at this chick, man. She is fucking British, man. She is British. They do not have the same culture as us, man. They don't have nearly the same amount of people running around with face tattoos. They be eating crumpets and fizzy wickets, man. They not like us, bruh. So just from a tattoo perspective, because that's the context of, this video, she's not going to have like a whole bunch of tattoos. Like, yeah, there are people in the UK with tattoos, but even if I watch UK influencers and all types, they do not be tatted up like Americans. The same frequency of tattooed people, it's nowhere near the same frequency over there, bruh. It's nowhere near the same frequency, bruh. You could watch all these roadman videos and all that, bruh. You're not going to see as many face tattooed people as you see just from a Southern video, a Southern rap video. A Houston rap video, a Memphis rap video. You're not going to see the same frequency of people with face tattoos. Jodi Arias, or whatever her name is, she got locked up in 2008. Remember, I said in the 2000s, that's when tattoo culture was more tame. So she didn't have any tattoos because it wasn't normal to have a bunch of showing tattoos, and you could possibly even lose out on jobs for having showing tattoos and stuff like that. So don't expect her to have a bunch of tattoos. I didn't even look up the chainsaw chick because she couldn't even pronounce her name. I wasn't about to try and type that. So, and it sounded like she was foreign. So again, not really applicable to America, but the Manson sisters is from the 70s. Like, they're from the 70s, bro. I don't got to go into that. So most of these people, most of these examples, except for the first one, you know, who eats fizzy wickets and crumpets in fucking UK and shit, none of these chicks were even doing the shit they were doing in the era where tattoos had became hyper popular as far as getting them all over your body and shit. And even then, the fizzy wickets, you know, the chick that come from tea and crumpet Latin, I'm tripping, bro. The chick that come from across the pond, they don't got that shit going on over there. So that's just on the tattoo end. But I want to say why I think, you know, just outside of the tattoo shit, why I think the sentiment that she said is bullshit. You can't look at, basically you can't judge a book by its cover. That's what she said, because she said you can't judge, you know, the heart of somebody based on how they look. There is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. But again, she made a generalization. Her generalization applies to the minority. These women, Jodi Arias, is the minority. If you look at a prison, do you think most of the people in prison look innocent? She named all violent offenses. Do you think that the majority of violent offenders in prison don't look like violent offenders? This guy is a pedophile that is known as the world's scariest criminal. I just had to get his face off that quick. But listen, you can't tell what's in his heart just by looking at him? That's bullshit. That is bullshit. I want to note that everybody she named is white women, so we could just get that out the way. But listen, man, if you see a YN in the summer with one of these masks on and a black jacket or a black hoodie, and it's just all black, you can't assume that there's any ill in his heart. Like, look at that sign. It say, please remove all shiesties before entering. In the community, we know what that is. We know that, listen, it's trendy and some good kids might wear it. But you gotta be weary of anybody that you see in a shiesty mask. You gotta be weary. And I'm not gonna lie, this is what it comes down to. All of this comes down to women not liking to be judged. You see women take stances like this and they want to do this whole you can't judge a book by its cover shit and all this shit. They don't like to be judged. You want me to keep it real with you? I'm watching a Barbie movie. I'm in the middle of watching it, right? Bruh, they got this chick who is like, she got the oldest, wrinkliest face, and Margot Robbie tells her that she's beautiful. That's women in a nutshell, man. They can't even take just aging, something that actually happens to you. They can't even accept that. Their ego has been conditioned through their whole life so much that they cannot take being in a position where they are not validated or when they are less desirable. They can't take it. Let's continue though, man.
You can't define every woman with tattoos just because of like whatever you want to say about women with tattoos. Your personal preference doesn't have anything to do with you bettering yourself as a person. Most of these people that are wanting to watch Rich, Andrew Tate, all these other guys, it's supposed to be about you as a man bettering yourself. So what does putting women down have to do with bettering yourself? What does talking about a woman's value have anything to do with you being a better man? Because a good man wouldn't need to put a woman down. A good man wouldn't have to say that a woman is low value because of this and this and this and that. They would
We not trying to be good, man. We trying to get pussy. Let's cut the bullshit.
just be they wouldn't be focused on that negative aspect of it. They would be focused on bettering their life, not continuing to talk negatively about other people. And it's interesting that the red pill community constantly says that they can't stand the LGBTQ community because they're trying to constantly label themselves and this and that. Yet they label themselves as red pill, manosphere, what's the other one? The Matrix, or like they've gone into the Matrix. It's hypocritical. And
It's not hypocritical at all. It's not even in the same realm of things, because nobody runs around like, no, you must call me red pill. No, you must call me an alpha sigma male. Like, nobody runs around like that. But when you talk about the gay stuff, which I don't care to talk about much on the channel, when you talk about that stuff right there, the issue with that is a rabbit wants to be called a dog. A man wants to be called a woman. And if you misgender somebody based on what they want to be that day, that is considered violence to some people. That is considered violence to say. So it's an extreme difference, in what she mentioned is not a hypocrisy at all.
And why would you trust a man like Rich, who wants to charge men tons of money just to talk to him for 30 minutes so that they can get some advice from a guy who just basically continues to say the same regurgitated shit that's been said by multiple men from the red pill community for years? There's nothing new. If you are a man, there are and you want to work on yourself as a man, there are way better people to look up to than these type of men.
When I initially watched this, I said, then please fucking name them. Please name them. Even though I don't think these guys are worth looking up to, it's still, if you were going to say that, please provide an alternative. Like Steve Harvey, like who was you about to say that? That's what I wanted to know.
You don't want to look up to men that need to put down women in order to make themselves feel better. And if that's the type of man that you are, then you're not gonna find a really good woman. You're not gonna find a woman that's, because it's gonna end up like this. She can be the virgin, she can be the one with no tattoos, and she can be the woman with no debt. But eventually, what's gonna happen if she gains weight? What's gonna happen when she gets pregnant and her boobs start to sag? What's gonna happen if she's tired and doesn't cook all the time? It's just gonna be, nothing is ever good enough. And most women aren't gonna wanna be with a guy like that long term. So instead of dividing, come together, work on you, and there's no need to talk about other people's value. The only value you need to focus on the most is the one inside, in here. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Enjoy the sunshine, the rain, the wind, whatever. Have an awesome day. And may we all come together in enough of low value and high value. Who fucking cares? Honestly, you'll know when you meet that person that they're the one for you. You don't need to shit talk other people all the time. You don't need to talk about single daddies are low value because that's what every other woman on this side says. Or yeah, women that are single moms are low value because that's what they say over here. What do you want? What do you want women to do then? To throw their children away? Do you want men that are single dads to throw their children away? It's not gonna help people. Why music like Bob Marley is so good, because it makes you feel good, it makes you come together. That's what we want to do. We want to come together, not divide. We're all just a human having a human experience. We're not objects. We're not labels. We're just human beings.
So I'm going to get to the rest of my tattoo points in a moment. But the thing I want to talk about very quickly is the end of that video. Two things. Number one, this whole video, especially that last tirade that she did, boils down to women in general, not just her. But women cannot stand to be judged. They cannot take it. They cannot stand it to any extent. They cannot take it. And the second thing that I want to mention is that's how come she mentions Bob Marley at the end, and we need to stop doing this value stuff and stop valuing people. Da 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 da. And she just wants to feel so warm and fuzzy. We all need to come together, hug, all this stuff. See, this is the thing that most women don't get. They don't get why people are over here. They don't get what the average male experience is. They don't get like, you might be being judged and people might be saying stuff about you, but an abundance of men still want you and desire you and will take you on dates and will compete for your affection and all of that. So, like, they don't understand that even with the judgment, that is still there for them. But for an abundance of men, for the majority of men, or even, I'm going to say the majority, definitely over 51%, the judgment doesn't have to come as, oh, I need a guy with 6 figures or I need a 6-foot guy. No. What the judgment comes as is rejection. What the judgment comes as is not being a guy who is selected. What the judgment comes as is a guy going for a good chunk of his life, not getting no girls, no sex, whatever. So, when it comes to women, like, they have desires like we have desires. But the thing that the way their life works, all they have to do is exist and then choose out of the people that are coming at them and filter through those guys to see who they are going to have fulfill their desires tonight, this week, this month, this year, for the rest of their life. That's all they have to do is filter through the options. And that is the bare minimum, because they will always have options. And when it comes to guys, there just might not even be any options or anything shaking or anything happening. Completely. Even if they try and they hard. Some guys, they just don't get it. So you, like, as far as women, you could get to this, the Bob Marley music. Let's just feel good and stop judging each other and stuff like that. And still get some cock. You could still get some affection from a man. But if a guy says, man, I don't want to be judged no more. Let's just feel good and listen to some Bob Marley and stuff like that. That's not going to get them no butt. That's not going to take away their desires. So men are more forced to face and accept that harsh reality, if that is their reality. And they either have to step their game up, which is why they are listening to people like Rich Cooper, probably even to me to some extent, and whatever red pill guy you want to throw out there. Or they could choose to go completely MGTOW, black pill, whatever you want to do, and just completely be done with it. Because at the end of the day, their desires are still going to be there, and they have to make a choice. They have to either shit or get off the pot. Not just go feel good and forget about the shit until one of those guys, out of all the guys that are pursuing you that you actually like, comes along and you say, you know what? I choose you. Doesn't work like that for guys. So that's that on that. That is the difference, and that's what a lot of chicks fail to understand. Now, just to wrap up the tattoos thing. Now, where I left off was tattoos say something about you. And I'm not talking about specific tattoos. I'm talking about placement. So, your body, that's one thing. Places you can hide, that's one thing. Your hands and stuff like that, that's one thing. But when we get to the neck, that's a whole nother thing. And when we get to the face, that's a whole nother thing. So this applies to men and women, the stuff I'm about to say. This is not no Rich Cooper shit. This is the dumper, man. This is my personal beliefs when it comes to this. If you have a bunch of tattoos on your body, even if you got one or two, to me, bare minimum, it says you are trendy. you're trendy. And at most, it can say two things. Number one, that you don't conform to, societal norms and things like that. Because if you got hand tattoos and stuff like that, it could say that to some extent. But the other thing that it says is that you have some type of edge to you. And this is typically true from my experience. This is typically true. When I say some type of edge, what does that mean? It means that you do things that are borderline criminal, sinful, et cetera, et cetera. Things that are kind of on the deep edge of that. So, for example, you might fist fight people quite a bit or not. You may strip or not. You bare minimum smoke weed or do other drugs. You may sell drugs, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what it says to me, as far as that's the deep end of it. But on the shallow end, it bare minimum says that you are trendy. Now, another bare minimum thing that I think that it says, if you have a bunch of tattoos, especially tattoos that don't mean shit and they just look cool and shit, you are willing to make permanent decisions without very much thought. You are willing to make permanent decisions, life-altering decisions, without really thinking it through. And that's if you have a bunch of tattoos all over your body and stuff like that. So to me, that is what all of that says as far as tattoos on the body. Now, when we get to the neck used to be extremely taboo to have a tattoo on, but it's far less taboo now. And you could get hired in a bunch of different management positions and things of that nature with a neck tattoo now. So it doesn't hold the same weight as it did. Now, when I see that, a neck tattoo, what that signals to me is that you really don't give a fuck. You really don't give a fuck about fitting in within society, about getting a job. And it's hard for me to believe that you are a very calculated person as far as the things that you do. And I would also believe that you do a lot of emotional things. Like you make a bunch of emotional decisions. That's what I would believe. Now, again, this is just me. And I'm basing this off of what I think it takes to get a neck tattoo. We'll get to the face tattoo before we get to what it takes. Now, if you get a face tattoo, and I'm not talking about that cute shit by your ear, I am talking about on your cheekbone, on your cheek, on your chin, on your forehead, on your nose, something that is on the front of your face that everybody can see. With everything else that I mentioned, there's possible dysfunction to some degree. If you have a face tattoo, in my opinion, there's a high level of undeniable dysfunction. And that could come with all types of different stuff. I'm not no clinical psychologist, so I'm not going to say, oh, you 100% are bipolar or anything like that. I'm not going to say that because I'm not like these chicks who run around calling people narcissists and stuff like that. But I'm willing to bet that there is something severely wrong. Something severely wrong. And the reason that I think all of this is because when we look at the neck tat and the face tat, we got to go back to what does it take to get that? The reason that I have never really been interested in getting tattoos and don't have a tattoo or anything like that is because I'm somewhat of an overthinker. It's just me being real. I'm a critical thinker. In the way that I'm going to keep it real before we continue, something I haven't said the whole video. I actually like tattoos on other people because I like art and I think it looks dope on some people. Even when it comes to chicks, I do like it on chicks to some extent. I keep it so real with you. On some chicks, it's sexy. That's just me keeping on a whole beam with you this deep in the video. But I know that if I see that shit, it's still a red flag, keeping it a bean. And this is why. To get a tattoo on your neck or your face, at a certain point, man, listen, I don't really have any fucking desire to move up in the world. Shit, the person getting it might not even be aware that that could take away their opportunities. Now, I do want to say this. You know, when you were black, it's very different than when you were white, because I had a supervisor with all types of face tattoos before. And I was just, and they were white, and I was just amazed at, you know, just them giving that person that position. It was just so amazing to me, especially at the time that person got it, because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand. It's not something that you see every day. And I do want to say that person was very professional. They were very good at their job. They never had any issues. And that is just me keeping it real with you. So when I say this stuff, the stuff, you have to understand generalizations. What I'm saying is not absolute. It's not 100%. I know one of y'all probably got a face tattoo and you listening like, well, I'm very sane and I have a master's and I am the CEO of Microsoft. Good job, fucking Dexter. Great job. But you are a fucking outlier. You're a fucking outlier. Just like that person that was my supervisor with the face tattoos, just to mention that. But there has to be a complete lack of awareness, or there has to be a strong level of I don't give a fuck to go and get some shit tattooed on your face, especially, but on your neck in some occasions. In the thought process, you don't really give a fuck about the potential consequences of having this shit on you. You don't, and if you don't know, what type of life are you fucking living? What type of life are you fucking living? I just seen a rapper today getting his face zapped. He's getting out of prison. He got out of prison or whatever, and he's like, bro, I'm done with these face tats. He was getting his face zapped up today. It's a new year, new him. So he got to a point in his development where he understood, yo, this shit is not gonna make sense as far as the perception of me being a changed person and me not living this criminal life no more. Like, people are gonna look at me a certain type of way, and it's gonna hinder my opportunities. It's going to, you know, hinder the perception people have of me. So they're not gonna look at me the way that, you know, as far as what I have inside and stuff like that. They're gonna judge me just off the look. So this guy, criminal with tons of face tattoos, got his face zapped up today, and he's getting that shit taken off, man. He got to a point in his development where he said, I am taking that shit off. But where do you think he was at in life when he got that shit put on his face? He was at a place where he was fucking wilding. Now listen, you know I could keep going. You know I could keep going. But this is a 50-minute video. And I just don't want to do that to you, man. I don't want to go too much crazier. So we're going to wrap it up in a second. So going back to the main point of the video and stuff like that. The point of this is not to make you feel bad, not to make people with tattoos feel bad, not to make me feel like, oh, I'm the greatest and biggest, you know, just the greatest guy on the planet and I'm so much better than you. That's not the purpose of this. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of me just doing what I just did. Listen, people are so disingenuous. Like, we all judge each other. You could look into the reasons that we judge each other, but one of the reasons, especially where I come from, that you have to judge people is for your own protection. And when you look at what Rich is saying, as far as saying that tattoos are a red flag, he is trying to put men in a position to protect themselves when it comes to picking a partner for a relationship. Now, you may have an issue with that, but hey, go, if you're going to talk about that and this upsets you so much, go talk about 50-50 as well. Go do that. Go do that, because that conversation is 50 times louder, 100 times louder, 900 times louder than the tattoo conversation. And do I think it's sexy and shit? Yeah, I think it's sexy. But I also think strippers are sexy. I would never bring one to meet my mom. Y'all have a good day.